Welcome to another Flag or Foul Sports episode. This is your host, Tarun. And today we're going to be talking about the unknown personality of Kawhi and exploring possible Ben Simmons trades. So, Kawhi, we both know Kawhi isn't really someone who goes to the media or really shares what he's doing. Like, as we found out from Paul George, we've just found out he has a son. He literally does not share anything to the media. So that sort of doesn't really show us how he is as a teammate too, because there isn't that many reports of him. We just see what we see during the games. But I have here some reports from some of his teammates, such as Kyle Lowry, talking about what Kawhi really is like when you play with him. So Kyle Lowry said that Kawhi often rubs people the wrong way because of the way he operates. He will demand the ball in certain situations and go get a bucket, even if other players feel that they were open. While Lowry said this approach rubbed some people the wrong way, he implied that there was a level of understanding on that Raptors team that Kawhi was the best player and they would live and die with the shots he takes. And he shared this on an episode of CJ McCollum's Pull Up podcast. So from this, we can see that Kawhi really he's exactly what people call Kyrie. He just wants what he wants. We can clearly see from Kyle Lowry that Kawhi will take the shots anyways, even if it's not the best shot, and he doesn't care. An example of this is when he shot the game winner with the Clippers that he airballed in Game 5. I forgot which series it was, but he took it. He had the ball in the corner and he airballed. Immediately after that, you can see Rondo getting in his face, asking him why he shot that, because Rondo holds everyone accountable. So right after that, guess what happens? That the next offseason, Rondo's traded. This really shows that Kawhi needs to get what he wants. He won't cooperate unless he gets what he wants. Even when he was joining the Clippers in the offseason from the Toronto, he told them, "Oh, you need another star, or I'm not joining." So they had to give up literally every single pick for him. And in the end, I feel like that trade, and that's another story, but that trade probably they would have been better if they didn't do it because he could have been playing with SGA, Gallinari, probably better than just Paul George. Get some more picks too. But that's not the point. The point is he demands what he needs for him to be on the team as well. So, and another example of this is he's really behind the scenes. He really needs what he wants, even when recruiting. So actually, what happened is Russell Westbrook called Kawhi in free agency 2019 to ask him if he wanted to team up. Kawhi, after hearing this, he went behind his back and told Paul George, "Oh, Paul George, Russell Westbrook's going to leave this offseason. You should join up with me in LA." So obviously, Paul George then requested a trade, and the rest is history. He joined the team. But this shows that Kawhi really he needs to get what he wants. He acts like he has to get what he wants, and I think the fact that he's allowed to do this and there's no repercussions for that, especially since all his recruiting too, there's probably like tampering in there because he tried to recruit KD as well. He recruited a lot of people, but I don't understand how this is allowed in the league for these superstar players to have this much power. I think that that's something that has to be changed, especially when Kawhi, even after losing with the Clippers, he just gets what he wants. He can get people kicked off the team like Rondo because they don't cooperate with him. He wants to take every shot. He wants to be seen as a star player. Well, he is the star player. He wants his teammates to know that too, even though everyone knows, because we know he isn't really big with the media. But I think that that's something that Kawhi he's going to continue to do because no one's going to stop him from doing that. So I think that Kawhi he's put a lot on Steve Ballmer to do as the owner of the team. So yeah, Kawhi really is. He's exactly what the media calls Kyrie. He wants to get things done his way and only his way, and that is something that yeah that shouldn't be allowed. But I will say, at least Kawhi didn't go and join the Lakers. That would have been pretty bad. So I'll give him respect for not joining AD and LeBron. So yeah, that's kind of the Kawhi personality on the court. Obviously, it paid off in Toronto because they got the ring. But if KD was healthy, would they have got that ring? I doubt it. the Warriors definitely would have won that right there. So, and then after that, obviously his media personality or the media's perception of him went up highly because obviously he won Finals MVP, and the rest of it's just ignored. Even when I feel like Kawhi as a superstar is the most coddled superstar. If you look at the Game 7 meltdown against the Nuggets, Kawhi didn't really have that good of a game either. But everyone directed their attention towards Paul George. Like, yes, Paul George was playing bad the entire series, and Kawhi was playing good the entire series. But in a Game 7, Kawhi is the best player, and he did not show up in that game. Yeah, I know that Paul George as well didn't show up, but I haven't really seen Kawhi talked about much in that Game 7 against Denver. So like, that's more of another example that the media kind of ignores the bad and hypes up the good of him. Also, like that game winner he shot in Game 5 this past season, I don't know why no one talks about his shot selection there. He shot like a fade in the corner from three. He didn't even hit rim or backboard, for that matter. So I think that is something that he they just don't talk about the negatives for him. Like in against the Nuggets, even though he played good, he still choked his multiple point leads. Like I believe there were definitely more than 10. He choked those. So I think that obviously they don't talk about that. They just talk about, oh, Pandemic P bricked from the corner. But let's pull up Kawhi's stats against that Game 7 in Denver. He shot 22 shots and he made 6 of them. So he shot 6 for 22 in a crucial Game 7 where they blew a 3-1 lead. Let's see what else he did. He shot 2 for 7 from 3. He had 14 points in that elimination game, minus 21, 2 turnovers. So, yeah, he really did not have a good game at all. Now let's look at Paul George. Paul George was 4 for 16 from the field, 2 for 11 from 3. But Paul George actually had a better impact than Kawhi on that game. Paul George was minus 20. Kawhi was minus 21. So you can even argue that Kawhi did have the worst impact on the team because he had the worst plus or minus on the entire Clippers. Or he had the worst plus or minus in the game of anyone. And yes, Paul George did hit the side of the backboard. That was pretty bad, but Kawhi did really not show up that game. And no one talks about it. He shot 27% from the field, which is terrible in a Game 7, especially like that, where you kind of choked your 3-1 lead, and then you had a big lead in Game 7 as well, and you lost that too. So that's definitely something that has to be talked about. Also, we got to talk about him in San Antonio, how he exited San Antonio. Yes, he had his knee injury, but there was one of his teammates. It was either Tony Parker or Manu. I'm not sure which one, but that teammate had the exact same injury as him and recovered. But Kawhi put suspicion. He didn't believe the medical staff, even though they continuously cleared him. So he would just not play on purpose. That's the start of his load management because of his leg. So he used that as an excuse to kind of get out of there. So you can see he doesn't adjust at all. He wants what he wants. If he thinks that he doesn't want to be in San Antonio, he's gone, and he used that as an excuse to leave. Toronto, he stayed there for a season, then he left to because he wanted to be. He knew that Toronto. He was the best player on that team, but he knew that all the fans were there for Kyle Lowry more than him because Kyle Lowry has been there for a while. Obviously, a fan favorite there in Toronto. So he wanted to go to a new franchise that hasn't really had any big moments. Well, the Clippers did have the Lob City era, but that was a while ago. So he did that so he could be the main centerpiece of attention there. That's definitely something that he shouldn't be allowed to do. So went over there, created his own team. And again, no one ever talks about this. He's done this 3 separate times. He did it. He did it with the Spurs. He did it with the Raptors. He's doing it with the Clippers right now. Obviously, no one said a single thing about that. I just think that just because he's quiet doesn't mean that he's not doing anything. It's not like he's quiet in his life too. He just never speaks ever or never does anything. The media definitely needs to talk more about the negatives that he's doing instead of just making him look like a perfect NBA player. So yeah, that kind of covers what I want everyone to know about Kawhi, kind of what he's been doing. So we can move on to Ben Simmons now. Let's look at different kind of what teams Ben Simmons would have a fit for that the Sixers could trade for too. Let's look at the Sixers first. What do the Sixers need the most? They need a point guard. They have Embiid. They have Embiid and Tobias Harris at the small forward in the center. So Embiid's covering the big. He's good defensively and offensively too. They just need a nice point guard who can sort of pass and get a bucket for them, and he can get the team involved. So looking at that, I think that when they trade Ben Simmons, they're going to trade him as a power forward. Most teams are not going to play him at point guard. They're going to play him at the power forward at the 4. So let's look at different teams. The first team that has been said to show an interest for a while now is the Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves right now, they have Patrick Beverly. So they have Pat Bev and they have Pat Bev, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns. So Ben Simmons as a power forward, I feel that he could benefit them at the power forward. I think he can be like a Draymond type player. I think that's what if he plays power forward, he's going to be like a Draymond. He's not going to really be the point guard. He's going to do all the dirty work, get the boards, play defense, and get the team involved. One thing about Ben Simmons is that he does actually get other teammates involved because of his size at the point guard. But I think at the power forward, he can do the same thing too. His defense is pretty solid for his size. So I think he can definitely have like a Draymond type career. And the Timberwolves especially, they're not the best defensive team because Karl Anthony Towns isn't really the best defensive center, but Ben Simmons could definitely help them. Will he make them like a championship contender? Definitely not, but he might help them get to like a play-in game or something like that. But here's what I think the Sixers would require from that makes this trade kind of hard. I think the Sixers would want D'Angelo Russell in return. Now, I don't know if the Timberwolves would actually do that because Karl Anthony Towns, the one thing he asked for in his career in Minnesota is that, I want D'Lo to come to Minnesota. So would they really risk doing that and making Karl Anthony Towns leave? Do they really want to do that for Ben Simmons? If this goes the worst possible route, that would be D'Angelo Russell leaves, Ben Simmons comes in, and then Karl Anthony Towns get upset, requires a trade. So they lost Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell for Ben Simmons. That is not a good trade for the Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves would definitely have to talk to Cat to see if he was okay with that. But I think if he did that, now they already have to at the guard spot. They with Anthony Edwards taking the backcourt by himself as the main backcourt player, he would definitely develop a lot more. Obviously, they have Patrick Beverly who can fill in that point guard, but Ben Simmons would really play a big role. But I think this is a really good trade for the Sixers more than the Timberwolves because they get D'Lo at the point guard and he can get a bucket. He can pass, get assists too. So I wouldn't say this is the best deal for the Timberwolves, but the Timberwolves aren't known for making the best deal, so I can see them actually doing something like that. And I think the Sixers should accept that. The problem with the Sixers though is they're getting kind of greedy. They're treating Ben Simmons like he's James Harden or LeBron or Kawhi, like a superstar like that, when his value has gone down immensely after his playoff performance. Even Embiid said it himself. He believes that they lost because of he said specifically, a play where we had an open shot, but we passed it out and shot free throws and missed one. That exact play is what Ben Simmons did. He had a wide open dunk with Trae Young on the other side of the basket, and he passed it to Matisse, and Matisse got fouled and he missed one of the free throws, but it's not even his fault. He wasn't expecting to get a pass. Ben Simmons should have just dunked that or even shot a layup. He is 6'10", so he's lost confidence in himself too. I think that definitely lowered his value as a part of a trade, but the Sixers don't understand that. But I think they could get the Timberwolves to give him what they're looking for because that's what the Timberwolves have done, like with Jimmy Butler giving up Zach LaVine like that. And then another. Let's look at another possible team. This trade scenario has also been talked about, and it's to the Blazers. So the Blazers do need like a Draymond type player. Now Dame has played with Draymond, so he might actually want to get Draymond, but we don't know if the Warriors are willing to give them Draymond. So Ben Simmons is another option. I think Ben Simmons would definitely help them defensively at the power forward because Nurkic, their center, does have an injury history from last season, so he could kind of help him out on the defensive end. And he running the pick and roll with Dame would be pretty good for that team. But they would have to give up CJ McCollum in exchange. I think CJ McCollum would help the Sixers because he can score as a guard. He can run the pick and roll with Embiid pretty well. So I think that's definitely something that's possible for the Sixers to want to work. So I actually think that is a pretty balanced trade. I think the Blazers will get like a 9 seed with CJ. Maybe they can get up to an 8 or a 7. It's unlikely, but it's a possibility if Ben Simmons really does play pretty good defense and passes the ball like he has before. So I think honestly it's a pretty balanced trade for each side. The only problem is I don't know like how close Dame is with CJ if he's okay with CJ leaving, but I think looking at talent wise that's a pretty good deal because the Blazers don't really need CJ when they have Dame in the backcourt. They don't really need someone as good as CJ there. They need more focus on defense, which Ben Simmons could help them with. Now, another possible trade they've been talking about is Ben Simmons goes to the Warriors to join Steph and Clay. Now, I think this is going to be highly. There's going to be a highly kind of that's it's not going to happen. It's highly unlikely that it's going to happen because they already have Draymond. Draymond is literally exactly what Ben Simmons is, but a better shooter. Which Draymond isn't the best shooter, but is he better than Ben Simmons? Yes, he is. So I don't understand why they would do that, especially since Draymond's been a part of that core team for a while. I don't see Steph or Clay or the Warriors organization as a whole really wanting to let go of him just to get Ben Simmons in exchange. I think that isn't really the best trade for him. No, I don't. The problem with this is the Sixers. I don't even know what the Sixers would get back from this. Maybe some combination of Jordan Poole, maybe Wiseman, and a couple picks or something like that. But it's not really the best fit for each team because if they do give up Draymond, I don't see why the Warriors would give up Draymond for Ben Simmons, Draymond and Jordan Poole for Ben Simmons. I think that Draymond is a good fit, chemistry and player and talent wise on the Warriors, and the Sixers. Yeah, Jordan Poole, it has some potential, but if they want a Poole type player right now, they could probably pick someone up. Unless their plan is to develop him, but Embiid wants to win now, so I don't really see that as a pretty good trade for either side, which is why it wasn't happening. Also, the Sixers have been asking for too much. I'm pretty sure they asked for Wiseman, Draymond, Jordan Poole, and picks. They probably asked for something else, but that's a lot to ask for. There's no point of the Warriors doing that trade. So now, what other teams? If we look at the East more, would any teams really need him there? Maybe this is a highly unlikely scenario, but they could try to like flipping Ben Simmons for De'Aaron Fox, but I see no way that the Kings would ever agree to that. But if the Sixers got a player like De'Aaron Fox, I would see them coming out top 3 in the East, behind the Nets, maybe the Bucks because the Bucks always do good in the regular season. So yeah, I think that's definitely those are definitely some possible trades. The last one not so possible, but if you're asking me where I think he'll go to, I think he will go to the Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves are the only ones who will actually give the Sixers that high assets back that they want, that they really need. So I think that it's most likely he's going to go to the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves will give a lot for him. They will give away D'Lo for him. It's not going to be the best, but I can see the Timberwolves doing that. Also, we look at the Blazers. I think they're gonna wait. They're gonna wait another season before they really make any moves because Dame has committed to playing the next season. If Dame says he wants out after this season, then they're gonna kind of blow up the roster. They might flip CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons. I think that's a possibility, but I don't think anything's happening this season. And Ben Simmons is getting traded this season. He hasn't showed up to training camp because he says he doesn't want to play for that team anymore. So I think that he will have to get traded before the trade deadline, probably sooner. There's no way the Sixers are going to keep him there, or they're just going to be losing chemistry by the second he's there. So yeah, that wraps up another Flagger Foul Sports podcast episode. And if you want to kind of talk about what you think, you can go to our YouTube. It's titled the same thing, Flagger Foul Sports. You can comment under there. So yeah, see you.